was the most nerve-wracking thing I ever got myself into.
Do you remember that day?
To start a brand, you're building, it's a story and it's a journey.
Would you do anything differently?
Oh, that's a very good question. Revenue so high is like, yeah, but that's not just it. There's fees, there's issues.
The boring part of running the business, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But it has to happen.
What is the ultimate aim of this? What's your actual goal for this?
If you sold it and you got a big chunk of money,
what would I do?
Would you start up another Amazon business? I think what would be good to start off with is just going over your story, like when you started your Amazon journey, like what were you doing before, and just bring us up to present day.
Okay. So it was around 2020, I discovered selling on Amazon. I'd mostly discovered it through YouTube. I could see people were making money online, and realistically, I just wanted to find a way to get into it, and I managed to, get into it, and I've been selling ever since. So up until now, really.
Jesus. Okay. So
Yeah.
nice. Okay. It might be a trip down memory lane, right? But so looking on YouTube, looking at, make money, blah, blah, blah. And you eventually started it. How was that feeling of actually getting started? If you can remember it, did you feel like, oh my God, this is like a big risk that I'm taking, or
there was
confidence?
Yeah, it was the most nerve-wracking thing I ever got myself into. It was just the whole thought of needing to start a limited company, kind of putting my money at risk to some extent, not knowing what the outcome's going to be. That was it was quite a scary process. But I knew in my head that, for me to actually get anywhere, that this step needs to be taken, and I'm glad that I did, because it's one of those things that a hurdle you need to get over, the nerves of it, to actually get somewhere.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. What do you have a day job?
Yeah, so I'm a primary school teacher.
Nice.
So I've been doing that for many years. And yeah, I just wanted to have something on the side to run, and maybe one day I could make it my full-time thing. So yeah, I'm working on it slowly but surely.
Yeah, good. Okay. So in terms of like the process of starting, hey, I've decided to do this and I'm a company, blah, 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 to selling, do you remember how long that took you?
From starting up the company until selling, I would probably say only like a few months, because you're kind of doing everything at the same time.
Yeah.
Setting up a limited company doesn't take very long. It's quite easy to do. The part that I found took the longest, but it can take different amounts of time for different people, is the product research, really, and narrowing down what you think would be best to go for.
Yeah.
And yeah, that one.
I find a lot of people that obviously that is like the most important thing, right? Is you have to have something to actually sell. And then you find something, and then you're always just second guessing yourself. Of like, is this right? Is this the right thing? Have I thought of everything? And then you go to actually buy the product or buy the stock. And do you remember that day? I mean, I am taking you down memory lane here, but do you remember like what it was like to actually like pay for that stock?
It was exciting. It was very exciting. Because obviously the way I branded my product, I knew that it was different and it stood out compared to all my competitors. So I was excited to see what I could produce from that, once it got into Amazon. But yeah, I mean, it was nerve-wracking, because obviously you're spending money, a lot of the money that you pay goes to Chinese manufacturers. In your head, you're like, is this even safe, what I'm doing? It's such a large amount of money. My parents are like, what are you doing? And this is completely new to them.
I'm just sending money to some Chinaman, like.
Literally. So, it was nerve-wracking, but I knew that I was confident, though, to some extent. I wanted it.
You said like, why did you go down the branding route? Because at the time, like branding is very, very important now. It's more important than it was a few years ago.
Absolutely.
Is there a reason like why you decided to go down that route?
Well, branding plays a massive role in people's decision making when it comes to buying products. So when you're looking at different listings on Amazon and you're comparing what product is the one you want to buy, immediately you want to buy the one that looks the best, that stands out, that customers, from the reviews, they have the trust in those brands. And to start a brand, you're building, it's a story and it's a journey. So 3 or 4 years down the line, when your brand is established, people are going to look and go, okay, these lot know what they're doing, then their products are good. So it makes sense immediately. Yeah,
absolutely. Would you, if you were starting again from scratch right now, would you do anything differently? I'm sure you would, but what would you do differently compared to what you did back then?
What would I do differently? I think, that's a very good question. I guess maybe I would probably spend a bit more time on the brand story, maybe, and trying to make it stand out more so. But I think everyone needs to start somewhere, and when you start a brand, it might not be the best thing that you start straight away. But yeah, as time goes on, you improve, and I think also I'll probably ask for more help. I had help there, especially with your academy. I had help there. I did wish I reached out a bit more in the beginning, because there is an element of naivety. You think, oh yeah, I'm just going to do this myself. I don't want anyone to judge me on what my thoughts are. But reaching out a bit more, I should have done. But yeah,
I think that's really important. To be honest, that's something that I always feel. I always look back on like the year before and go, oh, I wish I would have like reached out to that person earlier. So I've made a few connections this year, and I'm like, oh, I wish I knew them a year ago. I wish I had that information and that knowledge, like access a year ago. And it was just maybe you didn't go to the event, or you didn't reach out to that person, or you didn't do whatever. I guess that's just like hindsight 2020, right? You always think you could have done better. You could have had a better conversation. You could have reached out to different people. You could have gone to different events.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm finding so much like as like we progress in in our businesses over the last few years, there's something called like relationship capital, which this was taught to me through one of my mentors, and he said, you want to just deposit into that investment as much as possible, like building those relationships, reaching out to people that might be able to help you. You could help them, because over time they grow as well, and you can learn together and you do things together. So now it's like, how do I seek out people that are doing 9 figures on Amazon?
Absolutely.
Like, how do you get to those people? And I now have access to those people, and I've got them on my phone, so I can like message them, hey, like, I've got this problem with blah 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 blah. Like, they're gonna have the answer, right?
Absolutely.
And I think at the beginning you mentioned something like not naivety, I guess. There's I can't remember what the thing is called, but where people, they learn a little bit and think they know a lot, right? Because they know enough to be able to talk about something, and they think they know enough, but really they've not been doing it long enough to fully understand. Where you've got someone that's been doing, I don't know, account management for years and years and years, and or logistics or sourcing, and they're an expert in that. They're just going to know so much more than you.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because it's what they do every single day. And I think there's an element where you get in your selling journey of where at the beginning, like, cash is tight, right? Well, cash is tight a lot of the times. But particularly at the beginning, you're spending money and not making it until you start selling.
Absolutely.
And you pinch the pennies, right? You're like, oh, I'm not going to do that because I want to do it myself. Pinch the pennies. Once you start selling, you then realize, oh my God, I need to get an expert to do that, because it will save me money in the next year. I'll make that money back in my return on investment. Is there anything now that you wish you'd like have outsourced earlier?
In terms of outsourcing, I'd like to say that I outsourced most of the things, the elements of the business. I got a graphic designer to design my brand. I got obviously a freight forwarder to handle my freight. So a professional company. I would probably argue that I would like to have had a bit more education on the PPC side of things, so the advertising side, because you can quite easily start that with the basic fundamental knowledge of it.
Yeah.
And like you said, you think you know what the different types of keywords are, etc., but you don't know how to fully run it as it should be run. So I think outsourcing advertising can be quite helpful. But equally, I think also getting good training and good mentorship on it will be helpful, because that is where money can be drained quite easily in your business.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think also speaking to financial advisors is quite helpful as well, so accountants and stuff, because obviously you've got the fees and stuff that are in Amazon, but also think about the tax side of things as well. At some point you need to pay attention to the VAT that you'll need to pay, and your revenue may be really high. It might look good. What is it they say, like profit is sanity? What is it?
Revenues, vanity.
Vanity, yeah. So it's like, it looks good on paper, but actually, you might have other things you need to pay. VAT, you've got the corporation tax side of things. So yeah, just
it's like the boring part of running the business, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But it has to happen. Like the bigger your company gets, the more problems, or the bigger the problems get, right? The more money you make, the bigger the problems.
Yeah.
At the beginning, you just don't maybe realize how important those things are. But what I've seen is once people hit like 6 figures, it's like cash flow, logistics, accounting. These things become way more important than you thought they were going to be like a year ago.
Yeah.
To the point where they can be the things that really prevent your business from scaling. Like PPC is a big one. Like the majority of times that I see people with problems with PPC, it's actually not even a PPC problem. It's nothing to do with the advertising. It's to do with the listing,
right?
And having higher click-through rates or higher conversion rates. And the problem is, if you just get an agency to do it, then they're just going to add fuel to what's already there.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's where the education piece comes in, of saying, well, how do I make better listings? How do I use the right tools and services to do that? Within the past few months, I've kind of paired up with a company that do this polling software and it's really good for research, it's good for optimization, and it's something that we did like in the academy manually for years, but it's like an automated service for it. I'm like, oh God, this is the best thing ever. And that's something where you go, right, we could do this ourselves, and we could spend time doing this, doing the research, doing the whatever. But now with AI and all the other cool things that people are able to make, there's a service or software that can do it. Will save us time. It'll get a better result. Like that's the sort of stuff where you go, wow, okay, cool. Let's go do that. And then we get the PPC agency that can then make everything really good.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very interesting to hear you say that, because I think most people do have similar issues. Like PPC is a big issue for most people. Accounting is a big issue. Cash flow is a big issue. Logistics is like payment terms with suppliers, quality control issues. These are things that people do not appreciate at the beginning, because they're not problems that they're even thinking about. They're thinking about how to find a product, right?
Absolutely,
not what happens when one of the accessories of the product or one part of it keeps breaking and I'm having to deal with negative reviews. That's the reality, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even I show some of my friends, like I might be flicking through the Amazon app where you can see your sales and like, oh my God, revenue's so high. It's like, yeah, but that's not just it. There's fees, there's issues, look on my emails, like, Seller Central, they just throw you an email out of nowhere, some AI automated email saying, you've done this, you need to do something about it now, otherwise you could have your listing deactivated. It's like scary. It's quite scary stuff, so it's you've just got to have the resilience as well to know that this is not necessarily a walk in the park at the beginning. Obviously once you get it going and you get the brand going and it's all working and the wheels are all spinning well, then it can be very good and enjoyable to do. So
but one day Amazon's going to send you an email which you do not like.
No,
and you don't want that to ruin your day, basically.
Absolutely.
And it absolutely can. And this is the reality of selling on Amazon. That it's Amazon you're dealing with. And they do things that's why we've got, like, in the community we've got Anne, because she's like seller support plus. Because if you have a problem, we'll go to her, because you're going to get a better response.
Yes,
we know. It's like there's no hiding that Amazon seller support is awful. Like
Mm.
no one ever has said that it's good ever,
Mm.
right?
Oh no.
And like, but you need to work with it. You need to have a system. If you want to be an Amazon seller and you want to do it at scale, you need a system of support that's not Amazon.
Yeah.
And I was speaking with a guy, you know, that's very successful on Amazon, you know, multiple 8s, if not 9 figures, huge amount. And they have the same sorts of issues. And they go to Amazon and they have problems with them, and they might have someone dedicated towards them, but they still have issues, the same issues that you might have when you get an email, which is like something about the quality control or the review, the review rating is blah, 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 blah. We're going to do this for you. We're going to take down this. You have to be able to act fast. And that's the reality of running this business. But at the same time, you're not having to deal necessarily with fulfillment issues. And if you had your own e-com business, like at that scale, warehousing, fulfillment issues, you know, that is a headache. That's a massive headache. You don't really have to deal with that. So it swings and roundabouts, right?
Yes, that's right.
Always swings and roundabouts. Take everything with a pinch of salt, but thank yourself for some things that are out of your hands, but then you have to deal with the shit as well. What's then the goal? What's the goal from now? Because your goal maybe when you started, did you have a goal first of all? This is actually quite an interesting one. So what was your goal when you started? Did you meet that? Did you exceed that? But how's the goals changed from now going forward?
The goal at the beginning was to have loads and loads of products on Amazon. In my head, I was like, I want to have loads, hundreds. My goal has changed since then, actually. Since I've actually only got one product that does really well at the moment, and since I've started, I've released 2 other products since then, 2 of which did not go very well. And in my mind, I was thinking, right, if I'm going to do this properly, I need to make sure that I get one product done properly, well, and maintain it for as long as possible. Again, everyone likes to expand and get bigger at different points in time, but my approach to it has been always to make sure to get one product solid, make sure you're smashing it for as long as you can, and then explore different products afterwards. In all fairness, my main aim now actually is to take this product that I'm selling to different Amazon marketplaces in Europe, because I like to see, you know, if it's running well already, I might as well take the listing elsewhere and repeat the process, kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, there's a few different things that you need to change, but yeah.
There's 2 lines of thought. That your initial strategy was basically scale horizontally, right? Just do lots of different things. And look, that works for some people. Fine, good. It's a ton of work, right? It's a huge amount of work. But it does work.
Yeah.
There's the other strategy is you go vertically, is you've got a product, right? Yeah, 3 products, one of them's done well. Cool. Let's ditch those 2, forget them. Don't want to spend any time on them. Let's focus on this one. Cool. It does well in this market. Let's try it in this market. Let's try it in Germany. Let's try it in France. Let's try it in Italy. Let's see what happens there. One of those might pop off. Okay, so Germany didn't really do that well. Italy didn't. France seems to do really well. Let's like put more eggs in that basket.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's try the US. Let's try Canada. Let's try whatever. Or it might be a case where you go, all right, we've done well with this product. How can we make a different variation of this product and access a slightly different customer? So if customer A is searching for this search term, and there's a more specific one, well, can we sell the same product to these people by marketing a little bit differently? So that, yes, that's doing a different product, because it's like a separate SKU, it's still going deeper into the products that you've already got. You've got the supply relationships. And if I look at the people that have done really well in terms of, especially with their margins as well, it's not the people that have done tons and tons and tons of products, right? That takes way longer, and the risk is, I know it sounds like it's less risky, but it's more risky because you're doing more research and development and you're spending more upfront. It's the people that have done one, they've figured out what really works with one, and then they've gone deeper into that niche.
Right.
And they've built their brand. They're like, okay, our brand was good. But we've actually figured out that our customers, this is how they speak. This is what they like. So we're going to change our packaging. We'll change our voice. We'll change our color palette a little bit because we know that now this works a little bit better.
Yeah.
Those are the people that end up being able to have significantly, large businesses with very few number of products.
Right.
And that's the thing that becomes sellable is, yes, you can have lots of SKUs and you can be successful, but if you can have a few SKUs, less work per account essentially, and then you're building all the time, you have an asset, which is your brand. You've got customers, maybe you've had a nice product insert, you've got email lists. That's something that's sellable to a buyer, right? Where you want to go and sell it to aggregator, you want to sell it to a private buyer. That's really valuable. And that's where you make a lot of money within private label. Yes, you can make money on the monthly basis, but we know what it's like if you're growing. Your money comes in, you're buying more stock, the money goes out. Right? When do you make the money, right? People always say, it's a good problem to have. When you're in it, it doesn't feel like a good problem. It feels like I'm just spending money and then I'm spending more money and I'm spending more money. The business is growing, but I'm just spending more money. You want to get to a point where you're spending money, you're taking money as well, you're paying yourself, but also there's a goal in mind of, if I sell this business, well, what could I sell it for? And I've spoken to a few people recently that have sold their Amazon businesses, and you make a lot of money selling it compared to how much you can get in like cash flow. So do you have that on the horizon? Is that something that you would look to do?
That would be something, the route I'd like to go down realistically, because as you said, it is as it grows and as you're releasing more products, more issues do come along as you grow. So you do have to think of an end goal at some point where you're like, okay, how long, what is the ultimate aim of this? What's your actual goal for this? If it is your interest to build a brand and for it to last forever and it's your baby kind of thing, then fair play. But yeah, in hindsight, for me, it would be to build it to a point where I want it to eventually sell it and then either explore new products or explore different ventures maybe one day or whatever.
What would you do then if you sold it and you got a big chunk of money today?
What would I do?
Would you start up another Amazon business and go like, cool, I've done this once, I've sold my business, I could take a little bit of that and do it again, just in a different product category?
I could quite easily do that. If I saw an opportunity, I would do it 100%. But I would also look at other avenues as well, different areas of e-commerce, just to see what's out there. Take knowledge that you've established from Amazon and take it to a different platform maybe, or get into a completely different business altogether. But it wouldn't be Amazon. I wouldn't necessarily neglect looking into it again. I think if you do it again the second time, it'll probably be easier, maybe slightly easier, because you know the processes, you know what to expect. But yeah, I think the ultimate aim would be to literally just to sell it eventually and then just, do something else. I don't know, maybe, I don't know.
Sit on the beach, right? That's what we all.
And all that as well. And I do love my job, but to have that financial freedom would be amazing. It really would be. So
we've got a student at the academy, and I'm going to interview him maybe in a few weeks. He started up his business, high-powered job, and 2 years later he sold his Amazon business. Crazy, right? Good chunk of money. He quit his job. He started 2 more brands since then.
Wow.
And it's like, well, yeah, I did it once, sold it, like, do it again. Like, just do it again. And then every few years you have one to sell. What you don't want to be is, you don't want to be a slave to your business, right? And over time, like the position you're in, it's like, how do we take more tasks away from you? So typically I'll say to people, if you're doing your administration on your account and you can afford 200 $300 a month, you shouldn't be doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If it's PPC, if you've got a good converting listing and it's profitable, then get someone else to do it.
Yeah.
If it's product sourcing, cool. If you can afford $1,000, $1,500, $1,000 or whatever for product sourcing, and you can offset that against the cost, the profit that you'll make on that, do it, because you'll get a better result. And it's constantly a case of, I get to a financial milestone, what do I not have to do now? Now that I've got, so I'm not a slave to my business. And I think that's quite hard for few sellers to, I mean, I've certainly been through that many times where you don't want to release control. But once you do it, you realize, oh my God, I've got this. I can actually focus on the EU expansion, or I can focus on, I don't have to do my PPC. I don't have to do this, that, and the other. I can actually focus where the business can grow. So what advice would you give to, I want like two bits of advice. One that is to that person that's like just starting. And then second for someone that is selling, basically.
If you're just starting, I would make sure to not rush into things and do things rash. I think it really does depend on the individual, but I think in the beginning stages, you need to understand all the different processes of running this business and knowing where your money is going, how much you're spending, and not to let it run away with you. I think that's really important because, if you're not running it correctly from the beginning, then you're not going to be able to grow it as you should, and you can, it'll be scary when you get to a point where you're just like, why did I buy all these, why did I buy this, or why did I invest into this software? I haven't even used this software as much as I should have. So it's just knowing the amount you're going to use, think about it, and spend your money wisely, because you can easily go out of control with it. Asking for advice as well, because you can't just assume you know everything. You might have the good ideas, but if you don't get a second opinion from someone that knows what they're talking about or has experience, then you could be throwing yourself into a hole potentially. For advice for someone that is selling already, I would still reach out for advice to other people and still ask for opinions. I think for someone that's selling already, it depends what your goals are really, but
I actually would take the first bit of advice you gave as well. Like, know your numbers. Like, pinch the pennies. I think that's really, really good advice. I was speaking to someone with 2,500 SKUs the other day.
So much.
Mad. 160 staff or something like that. His big advice is know your numbers. Like, it's not product research. It's just know your numbers. Know what's going on in your business. And like pinch the pennies, right? It's if you're paying for a software for 6 months and you've used it once, maybe that's a bit of a waste of money, right?
Exactly. And it adds up.
It's like death by 1,000 cuts. I have this with like subscriptions to Netflix or Disney, and then Prime, and then Hulu, and it's honestly death by 1,000 subscriptions. When you add them up, it's like that is a lot of money every month just on watching a TV program, which I watch once a month. And that same thing happens in your business. Like I had this. I was paying for Skype, right?
Skype.
For I don't 18 months.
Wow.
For like 7 people or something like that, 7 accounts. I didn't even use it. I didn't even use Skype. Didn't use it. What a waste of money.
I know.
And every month I was like, I really need to cancel that. Like,
I
really need to never did it. It's just such a waste of money. So you learn the hard way sometimes once you add up, oh shit, I've spent
a lot of money.
£1,500 on bloody Skype or whatever it was, and I haven't even used it. What an idiot.
I was literally sitting with my accountant the other day, and we were going through just the bank statements, and we were seeing all these random things that I've been paying for. It's like, what's that? I was like, I don't even know what I've done. It's like, why are you doing it? There's like, I don't know. It's like, so it's looking at your bank statements as well, actually, is quite helpful as well, just to see,
Yeah. Know your numbers. Like
yeah,
things like obviously there's accounting tools to help with Amazon sellers,
yes,
and they're definitely getting better.
yeah,
But a few years ago maybe they weren't so good,
no,
and they're getting a lot better to account for more costs, which is quite
yeah,
nice. But
hmm
equally, I think to go off the back of your advice as well of like know your numbers,
hmm
with an existing seller, it's yes, you obviously have to have an accountant, but have a bookkeeper.
yeah,
So it could be your accountant. I just tend to find that they're a bit more expensive than maybe just a separate bookkeeper,
hmm
and someone that's just they get the reports from Amazon, so they're plugged into your Amazon account, and they take the reports, and each month they just take them, they consolidate them, they can do inventory, they can do everything, and they go, cool, this is how much inventory you have on hand, this is your sales, this is your costs, this is the money you're expected to get from Amazon, this is blah 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 blah, and then you just have an overview of like what's your cash flow, what's your balance sheet, what's going on in your business at a snapshot. So
hmm
then if you see something like, oh my god, like
hmm
I've paid for what, like where, like what, why is this such a small number?
yeah,
And
yeah,
then you can look at it then and there.
yeah,
And equally with a bookkeeper, you can say every 3 months I want you to go through and let me know what subscriptions I'm paying for.
yeah,
um, and then you can look at how often you use them. You can do
yeah,
that every quarter. It's like a way to save. There's a book called Profit First, a
hmm
really cool book.
hmm
Recommend reading it if you've not. And it just basically talks about how you can like manage your money and know your numbers.
right,
And one thing is if you can make an extra 1% per month or per week or insert whatever timeline,
yeah,
and you can also save 1% on your fees, on your costs, then over a year that compounds and builds up and you actually make a substantial amount of money. So if it's how do you save 1%? Well, how can I get rid of one thing in my business that isn't serving me? How can I negotiate a 1% discount on my stock order? How can I use Amazon Global Logistics to save money on my shipping?
yeah,
Like all of these different things, like how can I save 1%? How can I shave off a little bit of money whilst also making a little bit extra money through optimization or launching into a different marketplace?
yeah,
And over time, doing that allows you to scale without these big horrible like in stock out of stock, in stock out of stock.
yeah,
You're just having a
absolutely,
nice gradual growth, which is ultimately what you want in business, right?
yeah, yeah, completely. I completely agree with that. It's for every pound you spend, you want to put it in the right place as well. It's
Mm.
just you want to know that what you're dedicating your money towards it, you're going to make it work to help improve your profit margins and your overall revenue. So that's why when I took the approach of the horizontal, the vertical thing, I wanted to make sure that for every penny that I spend, that it's going to be working towards guaranteeing. Well, you can't always guarantee things, but increasing the probability of me making more money. So
Yeah.
keeping that product and using that product in another market, selling that product in another market. So it's yeah,
Yeah, I
basically
like that. Amazing.
yeah.
Cool. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. Um, got some really good bits of advice, got a good story from you. What I'd love to do is in a year's time, we do another one.
Why not?
We see what happens.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, we'll put it in the
Absolutely, I'd love
diary.
to.
Cheers, man. Thank you.